All right, everyone. In the spirit of efficiency, we're going to go ahead and kick things off here. Welcome to our breakout session, Efficiency in the Real World. I'm Jared Young, Commercial Banking Team Lead with Landmark Credit Union. Very fortunate to be joined today by two exceptional business leaders. First, we have Joe Skelton, President and founder of Nemesis Metals in Fond du Lac. They're a custom metal fabrication shop. These guys can do pretty much anything you throw at them. Capabilities ranging from cutting to forming, welding, machining, powder coating, among others. Forgot my PowerPoint here. Joe founded the company on the idea that we can do it and we can do it better. He continuously looks for ways to improve through efficiency, training, equipment, and technology upgrades. It's this way of thinking that's enabled Joe to lead Nemesis through 3 significant expansions to their facility. They're now operating more than 100,000 square feet of shop space. Also joining us is Nate Hoffman, founder and president of Carrus Group. They specialize in maximizing profitability by eliminating waste in projects. Whether it's relocating manufacturing operations, expanding facilities, equipment selections, or optimizing existing operations, Nate and his team deliver results while allowing clients to focus on their core business. Carrus Group has an impressive resume. They've delivered over 12 million square feet of plant layouts throughout the United States and Canada. So our topic today, operating efficiency, is a very broad topic, one that's pretty difficult to cover in just an hour of time. Our goal is to give you guys some tangible ideas to take away from here and apply to your companies to become more competitive. So we're going to narrow down the scope of this conversation to 2 common problems that we're currently seeing, eroding margins and worker shortage. Also, we want this to be an interactive session, so if you hear something that you want Joe or Nate to expand on, please raise your hand and let us know, and we'll expand.
Yeah.
All right. So Nate, when you hear the phrase operational efficiency, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, and well, first thing, mic check. I usually don't need one of these. Usually people take them away from me because I'm too loud. Am I okay? All right, so yeah, like Jared said, we really wanted to focus this on, how can we actually have something that we can take away? A lot of times these forums are great for education, but we kind of gloss over a lot of big words. So we really want this to be interactional. If you have a question, by all means, reach out. For us, operational efficiency, simply, it means doing more with the same or less. So less time, less effort, less money. But it's kind of like what the lens you look at that through based on what the project scope looks like. So efficiency in building a new building could be efficiently allocating our money to places where we get the biggest return on it. Something we often see in project is improper speccing of equipment, RFP processes where we aren't truly looking at apples to apples and we're kind of getting a mishmash of things back, or over-speccing things like overhead cranes. Often we'll do plant tours, and I have that invite open to anybody if you ever want me to come in and tour your facility, take a look at it. I'd love to. But you look up and you're like, hey, why did you hang a 20-ton crane? And they're like, I don't know. Oh, okay. That's a lot of extra steel that we had to buy, and it's not adding any value to our operation. So we really want to pressure test a lot of those. When we think about efficiency and location, like where are we giving primary placement to different activities within this manufacturing system that we're ultimately designing? We can't give everybody perfect placement to the dock. So right when I produce, it goes out, right? We may have 4 competing lines. Well, how do we get a data set that actually says, okay, our high runners are these are more of our strangers over here. We understand that there's going to be some inefficiencies in those, but we're giving primary placement to this data set because this is the one we do all the time, every day. So operational efficiency is really the cornerstone of our business, and it's what we specialize in. I'll also say, though, all the planning, all the design, all the consulting, air quote, work doesn't really mean much if you don't have a plan for action. So you have to have plans that you can actually implement and a strategy to do so, which is another big thing we do for our clients too.
That's great. Joe, operational efficiency. What do you need?
Yeah, to me, it's always organization. At least the way we started at Nemesis Metals in 06, we started with anybody else does, and without an ERP system, you're working off of spreadsheets and just knowledge and all the other things everybody does as a small team, which did work really well for quite a long time. 2012, we was forced to put an ERP system to be able to buy out my old partner. That was the deal. So I was forced to do it just to get rid of him, and which was one of the best things we ever did, because it really was. You get, until you really have one, you don't understand the amount of history you get from it, the consistency. Ours is a database driven, so which I'm sure they all are these days. It was somewhat new at the time, so I can get a report every day at any time, whatever information I want from anything that happened yesterday, the day before, in real time. So that's where our stuff. I know I am efficient to the point of more of a dysfunction than really a asset. I feel at times, so I can't get out of my own way. So like sometimes there's too much information, but this one at least helps, and it consistently, I can get my team to look at stuff the way I look at it. They're not going to, they shouldn't, as the owner, I have my view, they have theirs. But I guess this really spits out reports for them at the end of each day for exactly what they need to see, who's being efficient, who's not. So really to us, it's, the efficiency, I guess, it's a culture, I guess, and that's what we're really pushing it into. Is it's not just here, I'm forcing you to do this because I want you to do it because I want to make more money. It's like we all make more money if we're all working for the same goal towards the same thing. And then where a lot of it really comes from that ERP, where that started everything, and now from there everything flows from it. Getting our team to buy in. Nate had a great from our conversations a few weeks ago about this summit here was, how do you empower people to make their own jobs easier? It's great having a bunch of people that just do what you tell them to do, but how do you empower them to want to make their own job easier and to really, stand up and say, hey, I think we should do it this way, So again, it goes back to that culture of, how you get the employees to buy in and to care. And really, I want their jobs to be as easy as it can be. I tell them they're working on the ground sometimes because something broke. I was like, I said, I don't want to crawl around on the ground like animals. I tell them all the time. I was like, I want you to work clean on a table. I want you to work the way I would do it, So having them to expect the work area as I would if I was out there on the floor. So a lot of it's just communicating all that. So I guess when it comes to the efficiencies, it's, as a team, as a culture, I guess doing it the way I would do it is all I'm asking them to do.
You said something. So I had to run a workshop with two of our people this morning at a client site who will nameless?
Anonymous?
Remain nameless, we'll say. We discovered some inconsistencies in how they were tracking jobs through their floor. And this is a hundreds of millions dollar company, maybe $1 billion company. And I'm like, where do you get this information from? And I heard something I hadn't heard in probably 2 decades. They go, do we get that from AS400? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, was that the IBM ERP that they stopped servicing in 2001? And they're like, yeah, it's from there.
Ouch.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. But it kind of, you always have this feeling like, hey, the bigger do it better. Mm-hmm. No, they do it different, and they have their own warts, and they're working to make sure that those warts go away. But by not tackling something like what you said and I would consider you a small, medium-sized manufacturing
Absolutely.
company. You're definitely not one of these super large clients like the one we were at today.
Absolutely.
But you chose to go I'm going to push through this. I think Mike up on stage too said, yeah, we're in the middle of an ERP.
Right.
And everybody says that like they're suffering from appendicitis. Like, we're getting a new ERP. It's going to be good. It's like, no, it's going to be horrible for a while because it's really a full examination of all of your processes that you're putting into it. And it's exposing a lot of problems, and it's a lot of testing and trials. But pushing through is now a scalable model. And it's a lot easier to switch that, whether it is an ERP or it is a process that you're going, hey, we need to make this more efficient. The easy thing to do is now let's kick it off till tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Well, tomorrow you're hoping probably to be bigger, right? So the problem's going to be better? No, it's going to be worse. Right? My wife she's the dental hygienist. She calls it the root canal problem. It's never going to be cheaper, less painful, and easier than today. So fix it today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dental hygiene. Who knew?
Right. So it sounds like there's hundreds of different avenues that you can explore to, kind of test your company's efficiency door to door. So
Yeah.
that, to me, sounds like it could be a pretty overwhelming process, right? If you were to give advice to somebody who's about to start on their operational efficiency journey, where would you suggest they start day one?
Yeah, no manufacturing process and no process in general. We're talking about efficiencies. I work in the industrial and manufacturing markets. The last 5 years, the largest adopter of lean principles, which is essentially what we call this efficiency exercise, has been insurance companies, hospitals, construction industry, and banking. It's still processes, right? You're trying to do something, a certain amount of effort has to go into doing this. Then you sell your offering. The difference between the effort and what you sold it for is your profit margin, right? That exists in every business, every church, every school, everywhere. So hopefully even you who aren't in direct manufacturing can take something away. So some of my examples are related to manufacturing, but I'd love to dialogue on other avenues, as we have time to do some Q&A later. Related to manufacturing, there's this idea called value stream. How many people have heard that term? Show of hands. Okay. Simple idea is as I'm adding value to this bottle even, it creates a higher demand for my cost in the market. I blow mold a bottle, there's something to that, right? I can sell it maybe for a dime, maybe nickel, something. Well, I add water to it, now it's increased its value, but I don't know what it is. Oh, I put a label on it, now you know what it is, right? But I can't transport it. Okay, I'll put a cap on it. And that's how you're building the value. When you transfer that from one area to the next, and it takes you 100 yards to transfer it, can you charge more for your bottle of water? Nope. So we always start, easiest thing is material handling. I can't charge more because I'm handling it more. In fact, I increase my risk. I increase my risk of dropping it and spilling it. And then, I have waste in my production system. Somebody has to go out there and clean it up. So we try to really focus on how can we handle this the least and keep it in a value stream. And we know we have to handle it, obviously we have to drive over a right height dock leveler in order to get into our truck to get it out. You just can't charge more for overhandling. So the first place I would always start is material handling. Over-processing would be another one. But trying to look at that lens of, is this activity something that I can actually charge more for my product for? Or is this just an inherent waste that I have to accept? The one also, there's a book I love. If you guys like reading books, this is a short one, which a lean book and efficiency should be short. It shouldn't be an 8-week course you have to take, right?
It better be.
There's a manufacturer, I think he's out in like Seattle area. Fast Cap is the name of his company. Anyways, he wrote this book called 2-Second Lean. And the thing I like about that is you have to know two things as you're going down this efficiency. One, we'll never be 100% efficient. All right, tomorrow something will change, even if it was 100%, which I still don't think is achievable. Something changes and now we're out of it. But if you break the efficiencies and continuous improvement up into just 2 seconds, I want to be 2 seconds better today, and then tomorrow I want to do the exact same thing. When you extrapolate that over time, you can make some monumental changes that don't involve millions of dollars of capital expenditure projects. It might lead to that, but at least now you have a good data set that says, okay, we've gotten everything we can out of here. Now we're ready for that next step into this big investment. So material handling and recap, start there. And if it is a process related business, it's no different. How many times are you touching something that adds no value that you can charge for? Look there to eliminate it.
That's great. Joe?
Yeah, on our end, I guess we're trying to do more, with the same crew that we have now. Everybody has the same pains as, hard to get good people, yada, yada. We've been at 60 people for probably 3 years. And I guess I'm pushing as the owner, try the innovator. Everybody looks to me to make sure I'm seeing what's coming next, AI and all the other fun stuff we're working with. And really I'm my goal is to double our sales with the same 60 people that are there today. So I'm looking at, went down to Fab Tech a few months ago or last month to look at kind kind of what's new and what's great. And I've been there in 5 years. I was blown away by the amount of robots that were there and just how many people are doing integrating. And I felt very, very far behind, even though we've got 8 robots. We do a lot with it. But even just seeing what they can do, and then looking around at all the people at that show saying, these are all my competition sitting here and they're learning the same stuff and they're maybe ahead of the curve and I'm not. So it was a good eye opener to see what was going on as far as scanning technologies, a lot of stuff in our industry that will speed up and be able to do more work and make these robots smarter, more useful. Everything else, it's great. Robots are great when you're welding with them until it's welding shit or not good stuff anymore. Now you just got a big pile.
We're all adults.
Okay, it's got a big pile of crap is all you have now, and it's gonna take 4 times longer to clean it up. So automation's great. I've been programming robots, 20 years, but now they've really made a huge quantum leap, is what I've seen with the scanning technologies. They're smart. I think they can do some amazing stuff. So that's one area we're focused in on. Really getting rid of all the shit jobs, if we're going to go on a swearing word. I'll get rid of all the terrible jobs that we have in our shop, and because obviously manufacturing is tough enough already. The grinding jobs, the stuff no one wants to do, all the entry level stuff that you come into when you're in manufacturing. I'm working very hard of getting rid of all those jobs, and if that does that, obviously those guys doing the job can run the robots now or do some other things. So it's and even at FabTech, we found a robot. You can get a robot arm that's 36-inch reach for $5,000. 5 years ago that was $100,000, maybe $50,000, and now they're smart and cheap as far as that goes. So now applications you couldn't use 3-4 years ago, and now it's like we've got gluing operations we're cutting stuff with a utility knife, as simple as that sounds, with a robot. So now no human has to do that job. The precision's there. It's a terrible job anyway. So so I guess that's what we're focused on, is really trying to get rid of like along Nate says, those 2 seconds. Trying to get rid of those. If you can do that every day, you're moving forward very quickly, very simply. And this is the same thing. We're just taking small bites of some of the worst jobs and trying to automate them the best we can. And before, you used to bring in companies that do that for you, and now I think the technology's it's everywhere, and I think it's easier. And actually, the young generation coming in likes the technology, so you're not fighting that like you are with my mother, who's 72, that just retired, that wouldn't scan papers because she didn't want to do that. And how do you yell at your mother to scan papers? So you wait until she retires, and then now you go paperless. So it's like a good son. I waited. So now we're pretty much paperless.
That's a whole nother lens.
It was. So we went paperless in 2018, except for our accounts payable, accounts receivable, because I wasn't fighting mother about it. So knowing your battles, I guess, is another one too.
Well, and you mentioned like FabTech, and it's just this big metal fabrication show. They have it. I think is it always at McCormick?
Nope, they switch it. It's in Vegas next year, and then Atlanta, something like that.
It's a massive thing, but you have this. When you go to a trade show and you see all this latest technology, it's kind of like the AI conversation that we're having. It's like, what does this mean for me? Like, okay, I see all this capabilities. I see all these robots. Well, how does that translate to me? And a part of what we were talking about earlier is one of the cornerstones here, eroding margins. So in Joe's job, where well, not even Joe's, we just heard it from Mech. I make a component for John Deere. Great. You know how many people can do that in America? 473,000, right? There's not much barrier to entry. Maybe not the scale that Mech obviously does. But that part. I can do all their parts. You can do every single part that Mech can, because you have the same similar equipment.
Yep.
So now it comes down to price per part. Obviously, lead times, you got to hit all those things. But it's really, okay, if my competition is investing in some of these systems and finding ways to implement them, and now their part hits the market $3 less than mine, and they're potentially even making better margin than me. This is a bad future that I'm in. I start losing some market share, and all of a sudden, I'm doing less and less parts with this customer. What's happening? What are we doing wrong? Well, they're not going to maybe tell you, like, dude, you're too expensive. I hope they do. Yeah, right? Yep. So it's kind of making sure that that's an inevitability, as well as that workforce. So, and again, these are buzzwords, so I don't want to make them buzzwords, but this was an eye-opening thing for me in our school district. They said in 2001, we had 425 graduating seniors. This year we have 320. And in this exact same year, we have only 185 kindergartners. So we can say with in that 12 years of a kindergartner making it through, we're going to go from 320 to 185. Like, we do have a declining workforce. We also don't go, gosh, you really hope my third grader, when they grow up, they can haul around sheet metal for a job.
Without a doubt.
Like, these are jobs we inherently don't want. our
Maybe by
children.
high school,
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, they got to be a little strong.
Welding's sexy sometimes.
No, it's
Right, exactly.
That's it.
There you go. He knows how it is.
knows how to
But you
weld.
got to know what that is first.
Right.
All right.
No, welding
Good
is,
shop class,
is a
right?
great job to aspire for, but inherently in every operation, there's jobs you just don't want to do. I want to drive a forklift all day
Yeah,
and move
no.
pallets around. No, that goes back to the material handling.
No one wants to break out parts from a laser.
Oh
It's
my
one of the
gosh,
worst jobs or most tedious jobs in manufacturing. And if we could have bought a laser for X, we paid twice as much for it just so it picked all the parts and stacked them all up and pulled the skeleton off. So, it was an investment. We're like, okay, does it actually do what it said it's going to do? But again, that was part of the effort, is how to get rid of all the worst jobs in the shop. And yeah, we just paid extra money for it. So we had a smart machine that does it itself. And it's been about
that's how
6 months. So far, so good,
That's how you can achieve. When you hear, I want to get 2x top line revenue, but I don't want my workforce to increase, your brain kind of goes, oh, you're just going to beat the heck out of these guys.
Yeah.
Like, no. I'm eliminating that job so that person can do a different value-added activity for our organization. And ultimately, what you're doing is you're building a business case that says, invest this. This is the return. So when you do have a fixed labor cost and your revenue does 2x, which is an amazing goal, your profit margin is going to look pretty darn healthy. And that's what's going to be the funding mechanism for the next improvement that you make and the next one. I always tell our clients, I want you to spend nothing. I want you to invest as much as possible. So it's kind of our job to go into these companies and show them what are the levers and buttons we can push and pull to maximize our investment, knowing that there's competing interests. Joe wants a new laser and a robot. Oh, Jared wants a new ERP. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, how can I get the right data set to say, this is what we're going to choose to do because the return on it is better than that. And as soon as we get that return or we get more income, that's the next thing that we're going to do. And we prioritize it instead of, giving it names like Joe and Jared. No, it's just the right data set to say, no, this is the best investment. That's why we're aligned and this is why we're going to do it.
You guys are full of a lot of great ideas.
I wouldn't go that far.
And you mentioned this, Nate, you mentioned this earlier, ideas aren't really worth anything until you put them into action.
Yeah.
Right? So what advice would you have for implementation and continuing?
Ideas are cheap. You ever had that guy who watching a commercial or you're watching Shark Tank or something, he's like, oh dude, I thought about that 10 years ago. And it's like, and what'd you do with it? Well, nothing. Yeah, that's why you're watching him on TV. He put it into action. Don't make them too big. I think that's the biggest thing. Whether it's efficiency or any other cultural movement you're trying to create in your business, it's still change management. You mentioned your workforce and getting them involved. Getting them involved to understand, hey, this is where we're trying to take it. What ideas do you have? And then when there is a victory, letting them have it. You don't need it. Give it to them so that they can own it and understand that something is changing and we can build upon this. I think that's the biggest thing to do. And don't think that the problem will be easier tomorrow. The efficiency journey is very similar to the health of a human being. It's something you should always have to focus on. You don't diet for a week and then it's, I'm good. It's like, no, it's a continual process of being healthier, being more active, watching all these other factors. In a business, it's no different. You won't achieve 100% efficiency. At someday, the brand new, Tesla plant that Elon built in Texas, they will tear down because there is a better way to do it. And they'll realize that it's not even worth trying to retro. This one is being blown up. We are building a new one. So understand too that you're not the only one in this. But if you are the only one sitting on the sideline, it's going to come back to bite you in things like eroding margins and loss of opportunity.
No, well said. I echo everything Nate said. I think we've talked already. Taking small bites, trying to get people engaged. Nate mentioned as well. Go up to your employees, say, if I gave you $200 to improve this, job that he's working on, what would you spend it on? And they'll probably have an answer for you immediately, where you can guess, you can get him a new grinder, you can get a different table. The guy doing the job would be, the person doing the job would be the expert at that job. And I think, we all know that, but can we go back to them and really talk to them and, inspire them to really be efficient themselves, the point that you're just along for the ride. Everybody said in business, if you can make yourself the dumbest person in the room, you'll succeed. That's easier said than done, but it's really empowering a lot of the your employees there, and then the good ones. Your leadership, I always said, a big part is getting in your leadership to buy in and really help out the new guy and help with the efficiencies and do more than just stand in the back and laugh at the new guy. So it's
there's a little bit of that.
There's a little, but for a week or two. But then after that,
you
you got okay, go show him the right way.
There's a little hazing in manufacturing.
Right.
I still want to.
There always is, for sure.
I mean, I have a question, I guess, for you guys to turn the tables. How many either indirect or direct manufacturers do we have in the room? All right. So a couple. What are some of the efficiencies that you guys are working on, or maybe have said it'd be nice to do something more? Like an example, I'll tee it up, but I don't know the path forward is completing the thought. We hear about this AI stuff and it's like, well, there's a lot of things AI could do. I'd like to do more, but I don't know enough. I'm kind of stuck in this. I need to educate myself more about it. What are some of the things that you guys are working on?
Don't be shy.
I think it's all the same stuff we're working on. I'm just kind of waiting to see where it's useful and what we do. I think probably the most useful thing I got out of the AI conversation was actually from Nate, our conversations leading up to this is, where it can integrate with our robots and our ERP system and really be that glue that ties everything together. That would be my only hope for it. I don't think it's there. Maybe it is, but I don't have the knowledge or use of it. But that gives me the confidence to work on a bunch of different individual things, and eventually AI will help tie those together. Mm-hmm. And I think for right now, as far as everything else, marketing, writing emails, there's a bunch of nonsense people are using AI for, as far as I'm concerned, just making you more dumb if you got them cutting all your emails for you. So I'm a naysayer when it comes to it, especially the new stuff, but that was the only thing that had any validity that I've heard so far that I feel it could be a tool in 3 years, at least for what we do in manufacturing. There's obviously good places for it right now, but it's not what I do at all.
I forget who it was in the panel, just mentioned about having their own, assigning each group or each team to come to the table with 3 ideas for how they could use AI and then researching that solution themselves and making decisions. But I think segmenting who could benefit from the solution and zeroing in on that is something that's definitely
Right.
Well, not that I want to turn this into an AI conversation, but This is an efficiency side of how you can use it for efficiency. Sometimes problems aren't sexy, they're just problems. We had one internally at Carrus Group where our team came and said, you know how much time it takes us to do our mileage log and expense report? And there's one other component of it, I forget. And I'm like, no, because I don't have to do those because I don't have to do that. It's the benefit of being the owner. And one of them came up and he's like, I asked ChatGPT, I created a GPT, I created a prompt, and I said, what's a more efficient way? I know there's apps out there. Not everybody wanted to do that. Some people have these phones, they have that phone. But they created a template where they can do it now more efficiently. And we tested it then in our first month of deployment. And they said it probably went from about an hour to about 8 minutes. It used to take me about an hour to fill out everything, send in everything, and do it. Now it's 8 minutes. Well, I just bought back 10 hours of my workforce. Nice little thing, so we're going to build upon that. What other areas are taking us too long? What other pain points or things you hate doing? We don't make money by submitting expense reports. Yeah.
We're insurance nurses, so not where I'm going with this is, where's the break-even point? I know you guys are really data-driven, but you gotta have an MVP, minimally viable.
Yep.
Where do you put more weight on doing something or having a good plan of action going into it? That's where I think a lot of people get tripped up and they get this canal problem.
Sure.
Because you get paralysis by analysis.
Mm-hmm. That's a good yin and yang, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that all of us as human beings, in the absence of a certain clear plan forward. Like, this is why we're doing this. This is how we're going to do it. We don't expect it to be perfect, but we have vetted this plan out. In the absence of that, our natural default setting is to do nothing. Right? So, that's where we get into the root canal problem. Oh, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, or maybe something will change, but it doesn't. So I think having a good plan is good enough to execute and then start learning. A part of lean principle thinking is plan, do, check, act. So it's a circular process. So you make a plan, you do something, you put it into action, you check what happened. Hey, this mileage thing went from this much to this much. That's a good thing, right? Yeah. All right, put it into play. But then you can do it all over again. Maybe there's a new, so you were here, you went up to here, but now from this new vantage point, what else did you discover? Right? So that's where you go back to the plan. So now based on this new reality, how does my potential future plan change? So I always move, our tagline is let's get done. So it's on every email that we send. It says stuff, my marketing company.
Oh, man.
Stuff is better than.
Exactly. Come on, Nate.
But no, action. Action is have a good plan, but then put it into action as soon as you can. And then know that it doesn't have to be perfect. Yep.
I had one mentor that helped me with the same things. I would just want to have everything ready to go before I'd even start the project. If I'm going to landscape, believe it or not, I got to have everything sitting there and ready to go. And then for that, I don't have this. We'll wait till tomorrow. And he was like, 80% of something is better than 100% of nothing. It was just, for me, 12, 15 years ago, just learn to get things going, get started, start moving forward, and learn to be adjustable and adaptable is what I really fell into. The point that it was the running joke our last edition is I wouldn't make a decision until I absolutely had to, because I wanted to see how the rest came together. I didn't care what we're doing inside of this room yet because it's not built. You don't plan it all. I'm like, I'm just loose, So and because sometimes the wall got smaller on this side, so it changed the whole room size. And in the end, I was a smart guy because I didn't overplan it. And then we adapted and we changed that because again, it's a manufacturing building, it's an office. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted it to look like, and I just wanted it to be nice. And we executed. We did really well, but it all fell together with more people coming through, like, oh man, it'd be great if you had a glass wall here and some other stuff. And the thing looks like it's a well-designed office that we have and shop, but there was no plan. It was here's a big building, and now we're going to make smaller buildings inside of that building, and we kept it that simple. And we joked that I had a plan A, B, C, and D, and sometimes we were into E because the other ones didn't work, So it was flexibility, but somewhat we had a vision of what we wanted, but we didn't have it ironed out how we got there, and it worked for at least that project.
Well, and we'll even have that with plant layouts. Like, we'll have here's our final vision of the plant layout, and then business changes, right? But we've done the support work to create a narrative on, like, why did you put this piece of equipment here? Mm-hmm. I always say a plant layout is easy. My 8-year-old can do it. Like, hey, Kim, here's a bunch of little boxes, put it in a big box. Done. But when you go, why did you put that there? That's where you have to give the business case for, this is our main power for a piece of equipment and for demand. We put it next to the switchgear. We wanted to save in our power transmission over to it. I didn't want to have to run $300,000 all the way over to the other side just to power a machine. That's why we gave it primary placement there. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Something changes, I know why we put it there, so I can lean back on my plan and then I can adapt. Like, okay, shoot, we're putting another line right next to there. Well, I'm still going to try to fit it close here because that still makes good business sense, but I can be more nimble and adapt on the fly. And that's what I heard a lot of you, like you knew your process so Absolutely. Well that you could adapt on the fly well. Yep. So it really helps, when you're immersed in that, to understand what and why we're doing what we're doing.
Very good question. Thank you. It's kind of the course material that we prepared at this point. What other questions do you guys have?
Going back to technology, I'm going to stumble my way through this question, by the way. It's my half one tonight.
That's all right.
Perfect.
Thinking about both kinds of things that I personally like, but thinking about the planning part and technology specifically, whether it's fab tech, cool new toys, or whether it's AI or whatever it is often a shiny toy. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they're doing it, I should do it, maybe.
Maybe, right.
Specifically that, but that might not be the case. how do you guys, especially for a mid-size manufacturer like you, who doesn't have for sure doesn't have a 20-person, 30-person IT team.
Right.
How do you work through defining a business reason first, and then backtrack, if you do,
Right.
and then backtracking to, okay, here's the IT or the technology tool that is a good idea to help us towards that business goal? If my question makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, essentially, it's like, what's the business case for making this purchase? I'd say too.
And or making sure that you have one in the first place.
Right.
And don't just go get the cool toy.
Yeah. So first of all, there's no silver bullet. So that new piece of equipment will not take you to the land of Never Never Land or pixie dust and all that. It's still going to be
Every
work.
salesman's lying to you about
Yeah.
every machine they sell you.
It's unfortunately.
Come to terms with that.
So it's not going to be the thing that fixes you. And even if it is a bottleneck constraint, all that means is you have the constraint moved in your production system. So when I look at a piece of equipment and say, why are we investing in this technology? It's kind of like answering the question, what are your operations costing you? And what I mean by that is if you do nothing, what's the burden of inefficiencies that you're going to carry today? So let's say your old fiber laser that you probably
We
had.
got a 20-year-old laser. That's a CO2 laser.
Oh, CO2.
Bought and paid for about 12 years.
Bought and paid for.
We still don't throw it away.
That's
it still
okay.
does good. It still's got its niche.
The point is it's a lot slower than a brand new
For sure.
fiber laser.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
if you're only getting 1,000 parts out of there and making these numbers up, and you're like, the only way I can double my production is by doubling my workforce, meaning, okay, we're running a second shift. Anytime you do that, your margin goes like this. It always takes a tick down. Or I could justify this new laser, which yes, costs $1 million, whatever the cost of it is. But on that new laser, I can get out 3,000 parts. Now I still have the same one operator. I don't have to hire another person. I can 3x my output. I can sell more to my clients. You're starting to understand, like, if I say no to this investment, that means these are the limitations and the waste that I'm saying yes to. And once you start tracking that and you see that pain point, it's like, shoot, that's $1 million if I do nothing this year.
Right.
Well, why don't I invest $1 million and at least get my 3x output, better parts too, cleaner cuts? Now it turns into a good equation, but too many people don't know what their operations are costing it. What's the cost of saying no? I don't know.
Right.
Okay, but I don't know the clear path forward, right? So I'm going to sit and do nothing and hope it gets better. Probably study what saying no is going to actually, how that's going to impact you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
makes sense.
Yeah.
In a great way.
Good question. Anybody else?
I'll go with one more. Speaking of margins,
Perfect.
I mean, like what we were just talking about margins, invest to improve your margin. My world is actually about cost savings, so
What do you do?
the answer. I help manufacturers reduce costs.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
For you and where you talk about the efficiencies, there's a lot of ways to do that on the process side. But where, especially like in the past year, where are you seeing on the cost, there's all those people's costs, where are you seeing where you can attack margin? Investment side, yes, but on the other side, the input, the costs, and everything else that goes into it, where do you see where the struggles right now to help improve margin, or you could improve margin, but it's a lot of work, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but the only thing we're seeing is that with the technology, I feel we have less people in the office than we've ever had. Most of our money is out on the shop floor. I remember it being, at least in our industry, it was always one person in the office for every 4 people on the floor, and I bet we're 1 to 8 at this point, so I think with a ERP system, AI, help with quoting and some other stuff maybe. I think, and everything seems to be smarter and a little bit faster. We're not faxing things to each other like we did. When I started 20 years ago, that was valid. That was a thing. We got rid of ours 10 years ago, and one customer was irate. So but now you got cleanness where it's we're not printing paper when you don't need to. Again, I think we're as a society getting smarter. And again, more technical. Everything's email. You're not sitting on the phone all day long. I mean, I think of it the other day as like, how much have we gotten better over the last 20 years by sending a quick text to a customer if you're that good of friends with them versus dialing the phone, having them transfer you to their. How much time do we sit here on the phone like this in the 80s and 90s? Is my guessing. now you're getting so much done and so much throughput that way. I think we're more efficient as human beings as we have ever been, So I see it, at least in the office. It seems like if you're focused on that, we have too many right now. We've gotten so efficient. I've got to get rid of some. So that's, I guess, a good problem. So they're going on the shop floor, I guess.
Well, there's certain costs too that, we can't work it down to zero, right? Materials still cost stuff, labor cost stuff, materials are rising, labor's rising, insurances are rising. You name it, what cost isn't going up? We can control them to a certain degree, but that's where I really look at, let's take material as an example. I'm bringing it in. How fast can I get this thing turned around to get me money back again? So, and when you have all of those, just looking at it from material handling standpoints, all of those different steps it has to go through before you can turn it into cash. And then knowing every time it goes into there, I lose $1. It goes here, I lose $1. It goes here, I lose $1. Like, oh my gosh, dollars are just dripping off of this stuff. We got to get this thing through here as quickly as possible. Turn my raw into cash as quickly as possible. That's how I look at it. I wouldn't attack it too much. I can't control tariffs. I can't control steel costs. I can't control supply chain. There's certain things that we can't control. So look at the things that we can. And that's really where you take an inward look to go, all right, we need to get this. This is stuff we can do, and focus on that. Because, you heard it in the panel discussion, all of them. We wasted a lot of time going through a lot of contingency planning on the tariffs, and almost none of it went in because we don't know what tweet's coming out tomorrow. A lot of truth to that. Can't control that. Prepare for it, but control your controllables. We can control that. We can get better and make a plan for that.
Is that a John Wooden quote there?
It was. It's on my computer screen.
There you go.
We talk about labor shortage all the time, right? There's obviously labor shortage now, and it's not getting any better. What do you guys do to not only attract people to you, but retain them?
To our individual businesses?
Yeah.
Ours, I just work on spoiling them, we just put our addition on. We went air conditioning where there's not too many welding fabrication shops that are 72 degrees year round. At the end of the day, it was the best investment I ever did. The equipment isn't cheap, but I was waiting for the electric bill to spike through the roof. And I was ready to deal with it. Okay, if it goes up $15,000, which essentially would double what our electric bill is during the winter, and it went up $2,000. So essentially, it wasn't especially with all the equipment that we have running, air conditioning was not a big deal, but for our industry, that was huge. That's what we brag right out of the gate, climate controlled welding, and we don't turn over welders. Most of them get pretty pissed when they get fired because they didn't show up or whatever, they hit their points, and then they call OSHA on us. So it's usually always the example, when somebody loves their job, they're gonna call OSHA on you. If they hated their job, they're just leaving, So we're getting really good friends with OSHA, so we know what we're doing. And but for that reason is when we cut somebody loose, they're usually pissed, So
it's actually huge in the metal fab.
And it is right now. And that was a huge investment. We spent, probably $500,000 air conditioning the entire shop to see if this would actually be the benefit that I thought it would be. And it did. I recommend it if you're not air conditioned. Nobody wants to sweat no matter what you're doing, especially welding where it's hot enough already and you got sleeves on all day long. So in manufacturing, that was an easy one on our end.
Yeah, I would say not just the air conditioning, but just the overall cleanliness of your facility. I've never seen a metal fabrication shop that was spotless.
Yep.
You do a very good job of that.
Thank you. That's the culture. The guys, when we added on, we cleaned it all up, we painted everything, and once it's nice, people want to keep it nice, and when it was dirty, nobody cares. Somebody's told me about, you go to a rough part of town and somebody breaks a window, says fix that same day, the place will stay nice. If nobody fixes that window, they'll break another one, and that's how, things go downhill. So I think keeping it clean, showing that I care, and then now they, almost, again, it's culture. They see me picking up something off the ground because that looks like shit to me. And now if I'm the owner who's going to do it, there's no reason they can't do it, So I think it's a culture thing, but thank you.
It sounds like you get ownership or responsibility to do it.
Absolutely.
It's yours.
Yeah, but this is it is. And with 60 people, it's easy enough to do that, at least on our end. We started that way when we were 20, whatever. I'm a guy from the floor. I was a welder. There's no silver spoon. I got started a fabric company. I just had the opportunity to do it and did it. So we take a lot of the stuff I learned from the floor and the stuff I was upset about on the floor as just an employee and, we hoped that eventually once we made it, that I wouldn't forget all that stuff. And so far we got enough. I got nephews and nieces working with us, so that helps to keep it grounded because they'll tell me things no one else has the balls to tell me, you know. So family's a tough one to crack. Again, like mother, you know, she wouldn't go paperless even though everybody else would, you know. So you take those, but you do get good, honest feedback if you're listening, you know.
I just appreciate your perspective because I feel like sometimes when you talk about efficiency and you get people in the door that are really focused on efficiency, you risk losing the human element, the culture, and people's experience. And it sounds like you are really focusing on how can you use efficiency to improve people's experience.
Absolutely.
And that's cool.
Get rid of the worst parts of their job.
Well, it was that for a while, right? So we have to retrain. You know, it was I could get more parts for less money from China. Therefore, you're fired, plant shut down. Pretty simple equation, but that's not sustainable as we're seeing now. And I do think it's no. How do we get more out of less effort? You know, make your job better, make you enjoy it better. It sounds a little touchy-feely, I get that, but it's really reframing. And we get that pushback all the time when we're doing a time study and people are like, what, you watching me? Am I like going to get fired? Like, you only get this many parts out per hour? Like, no, that's not why we're doing this. We're trying to understand capacity. And we're trying to understand too, you can only get this out because of the situation you're in today. But if all of a sudden I did get that new piece of equipment, you could 3X this and invest the exact same and enjoy
Absolutely.
the job.
And do just the easy parts you like, you know. Right.
Yeah.
Manufacturing hard enough, and I think I came in at a time where it was getting to the point that people didn't stay at their jobs for 50 years anymore. Before you were lucky to have a job, you know, when I first got into it, that's not the case anymore. So like I'm happier I don't have that old school mentality where it's like, here, just deal with it. It's like, no, I don't want you to leave, you know, because then I got to do that job, you know. So here, I appreciate that, you know, and everybody's got their nook, you know. Some people like grinding, you know. I think my favorite commercial lately was the somebody was the cleaning products where they're showing where different people are excited by different things. Petting a puppy to one thing versus cleaning a toilet to that same person. The cleaning the toilet was way up here, and that's the truth. We have people that do terrible jobs, really terrible, not fun grinding jobs, but particular stuff I can't get else to do, and they love it. And when you try to take them off it, you know, they get mad. You know, my wife runs our hardware cage. She puts little hardware in bags all day long and makes sure they're perfect. It's my wife, you know. I was like, honey, we can get you a good job. Every time I talk about getting her one, she likes doing that. Right, exactly. Now I'm getting shunned because I'm trying to get her, I thought, a better job. Right, she's like, don't take my cage away from me. Like, okay.
Give me my bags back.
Right, that's what it was. It's like, get out of my cage. Like, okay, you know, like, all right. Like, so yeah, it's hard to tell what people do like, but yeah, moving people around to get them in spots that they do enjoy. The point is that, yeah, they're defensive about their job, but then give them tools to get rid of the shit parts of it.
Yeah, we're more of a professional services company than, you know, manufacturing. We work with manufacturers, so I love the things that you said, and I can definitely echo them. For us, we wanted a shared fate. That's what we were trying to create. We have a pretty aggressive growth plan, and we've been very fortunate that a lot of people are choosing to partner with us. So when we won, I wanted our team to win, and I wanted them to win as fast as they could. So we put in a quarterly bonus structure. So every single quarter, we close our books. We look at our goals, and it's not did we achieve yes or no, it's to what extent did we achieve. And then they can earn up to 25% of their base salary in a total compensation. But when we close the quarter, the next Monday checks go out. So far this year, we've hit our great level. So we had good, great, grand, and wonderful. We're sneaking up to grand, which is pretty cool. And the guys are excited about that. But the cool thing is it's a separate check too. I don't know if you guys do this, but I'd highly recommend this if you are looking, if you're doing any sort of additional, it's a bonus, it's a, you know, whatever, do not put it on their payroll check. It will not hit them the same. And when you send that to their house, and maybe their spouse picks it up and they're like, what's this? Quarterly freaking bonus. Let's go. It happens instantly, and you can keep that carrot right in front of them for a 3-month period. And they know, like, I'm busting my butt, but I got this thing at the end. So we've actually been able to control our internal costs. We're probably like one project manager light. but we're doing the work of probably like 2 extra because we're giving that back to our workforce. But then the techs come around. So Dave said, I bought a new stereo system for my Harley. And then Dean said, I bought a new motorcycle, and he loves used motorcycles. So I'm not saying we give out that big of quarterly bonuses to buy a new one.
I was wondering if you're hiring, you know?
And then unfortunately, John said I paid vet bills. But we're like, at least you got to pay them. But it's cool to see that camaraderie. They all know. And we do it in a way where it's tied to their base salary. So nobody knows what their base salary is, but they do know, hey, I got a bonus. They just don't know what the other guy got. But they see the impact. So that's been huge.
Joe, it sounds like you've got your business in a pretty good spot. Getting more and more efficient, you work on that with employees, you've got a culture that's built on. When you started that process, what was your approach to the employees who were resistant to the change?
Being willing to part with them if I had to. One of the first ones, which I was really surprised, we went paperless in 2018, like I said, and there was press brake operators that could not do that job without the paper in their hand. And it was some stuff you're like, if I make an exception here, now I got to make an exception here. And, we got rid of all the printers, and you had to be ready to, cut some loose. And some were guys have been there, 5-6 years, and some are core guys. But especially a press brake operator, that's one that's it's a special individual, and those were tough ones. But we knew that going into it. I'm like, Chuck's never going to deal with this. And he didn't. He tried it for a while. He needed to have it on a magnet because that's why he'd been doing it for 20 years. And we knew right out of the gate that it's going to be painful for some, but as long as we can get, I had mine, if we lost 25% of the workforce, fine. If that's what it has to be in the name of progress, it's like some got to be left behind. And the same thing, we're still seeing it now. Some don't want the robot come over to grind that. And grinding sucks, but they don't seem to want to make that leap. And it's like, it's the next one leaving, unless you can. I always try to move people around. I say there's a spot for everyone. I'm always very hard pressed to fire anybody. I think if it's not working here, maybe it's over here, and we've had really good success with that as well. Going, he can't weld for shit, but he can maybe run this, and they get him in their happy spot, and life is good, So moving people around, not losing faith, especially if they show up for work. Everybody knows that if they show up for work, it's really hard to get rid of somebody these days, But
It's a low bar, unfortunately.
Yes, without it.
I think too, it's, I don't know the keys to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everyone. So you got to know that not everybody's going to be on board. But if you go through some of those steps, like we always try to identify who can be our champions. And sometimes your biggest threats initially can become your biggest champions when you implement. And people want to be heard. I want to be heard. I don't want somebody coming into my workplace and telling me how to do my job better. You get all puff-chested and it's like, no, I'm just here to learn. I'm here to help and remove barriers. Oh, well, that's pretty not threatening.
Trying to make your job easier.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too. So tell me what you're doing, Right. And it's like, okay, this guy's on my side. And I think that that's ultimately when people are changing. We're being pushed out of our comfort zone. So just to kind of meet them there, being like, yeah, I know it's uncomfortable. We're going to be uncomfortable together. We're going to do this together. And then again, it gets back to when you have that win, give it to them,
Good question. Okay.
Cocktail time or what's
Yeah. So I think we've
smell
pretty
beer.
much extended everything here. If you guys come up with any other questions, the contact information is up there. Feel free to reach out to Joe or Nate, or run them down out in the lobby here. I think they're sticking around for a while. So
Yeah, I'll buy you all a beer.
I really appreciate
Cheers,
all
Nate.
the
Right?
questions, all the interaction. This was fun, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.